Welcome back to our final segment. Yes, you made it all the way to the final segment of our County Connections show for March of 2017. I'm your host, Scott Margo. I'm joined by Karn, Dan, and Thomas, your county commissioners. So, Karn, we're going to start with you this segment. We're going to talk a little bit about water stuff.
Well, it's March, so we start thinking about springtime runoff and how much water there will be. And we've had just a miraculously wonderful snowfall early this season, but it's been mighty warm and not so much snow, so you never know what's going to happen come June in terms of actual volumes of water. I was actually counting up the other day all of the boards, committees, and subcommittees that I'm on that relate to water. I counted up 15.
Oh, Lord. Poor thing.
Wow.
And
she dreams in acre feet now.
And the new one that I've taken on is the Colorado River District. Gary Martinez, our ex-county manager, was taking that on for a few years. So the River District and the Colorado Basin Roundtable work on a lot of similar issues. And one big one that we're working on is another risk study looking at the impact of Lake Powell and the low levels there, and actually having a compact call or some other agreement and how it will impact us, trying to come up with an insurance policy basically of water rights that could be put into kind of an insurance policy where they would get paid to not use them. So that's an ongoing study. It's also a legislative season, so we get involved with various legislation that impacts us. In particular, on the West Slope, we're always a little worried that we don't have the political clout in the West Slope that the East Slope has, and so we're very involved with a number of groups and lobbying efforts to make sure that we're fairly treated and we keep as much of our water here serving our needs. And so one interesting one that we've been working on for a couple years now is related to a Supreme Court decision, St. Jude's, it made sense, but it was a really broad decision that ended up saying that it threw into question the validity of using water for aesthetic, and we basically agreed with that, environmental, piscatorial for fish, and recreational uses. Well, those are very important uses to all of us. So we've been working on legislation that basically clarifies this is what that Supreme Court case really meant, and it doesn't impact all these other uses. And there's plenty of other water legislation every year, but that's one that's really important to us.
And I know that the rest of the board would like to thank you for the amount of time you spend on those water commissions and boards and groups, etc. Yes?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Well, they are all interrelated, so it does make sense.
Yeah, so of course it does.
Absolutely. Well, and many of those meetings are in Glenwood Springs, or quite often they're not in Summit County, and that's one thing that everyone should know. So a lot of our meetings are in Denver or Grand Junction or all over the place, really.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. You have the most fuel-efficient car, so it makes
That's
sense.
true.
You're out there at all of these different meetings.
Yeah.
So,
and you each have, of course, your areas that you guys work on, and without question, Summit County has 3 full-time county commissioners. There's no doubt about it. So, and again, I appreciate the meetings that are out of county and out of town, because then I can do my job as well. So I appreciate all of that. So thank you all for all of the work you do. All right. So we'll move from.
we all know what
Keep us away.
Exactly. So, all right. So we'll talk now about CDOT. So CDOT came in for their quarterly and also their past due annual meeting just about a month or so ago, or a few weeks ago, to talk. And they talked a little bit about projects that are coming up in the summer. And so I think it's important for everybody to understand what's coming their way, because there are some big projects that will be happening this summer. So who wants to take the lead on that?
Want me to kick off, maybe?
Sure.
Well, first of all, we have Highway 9. I don't know if it's starting at Everest Materials and finishing at Corinthian Hills, but one or the other. It's starting in.
They haven't decided yet exactly which end they're going to begin on.
Okay, so just imagine that. I mean, that's a long section, very busy, and so they'll be starting as soon as possible, is my understanding, in the springtime to summer, and hopefully we'll have that completed by the fall. So
Yeah, lots of, they said lots of curb work and lots of ramp and concrete work, that's what they'll start with. And then I think they said sometime, and again, their schedule hasn't been refined yet, but sometime early July or just shortly after the 4th of July, they'll begin the paving piece of it is what I think they believe will happen. They were supposed to be
Right when it
meeting.
gets busy.
Yeah, they're supposed to be meeting in
Right.
March to talk about the timeline and the schedule and details about like which side are you going to start on and that kind of thing. So lots to come on that one, but that will be a pretty traumatic series of paving operations for people that are frequenting that area.
Exit 205 is the second busiest interchange on the interstate, right? So,
Yeah. So
They'll be doing a lot of night work in the busiest areas, but for anyone who lives in that vicinity, like me, pay attention. They'll be sending out information about what the schedules are, but it will be a big impact.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. But absolutely needed as well.
Oh, yeah.
The roadway is in some rough shape in a lot of areas, and so once it's finished,
we're not
it'll be
telling them
great.
don't do it.
Yeah, it'll be great once
Yeah.
it's finished, but it will be a bit of a challenge. But again, they can't really do these projects during the winter either, and so they have a very short window to get these things done.
should I talk about the next project? Maybe you guys can jump
Iron
in.
Springs.
Well, Iron Springs is the next major one, and thank you so much to the town of Breck, Frisco. Summit County government was involved with that, and Vail Resorts. It was a great, unique partnership. It was called a RAMP partnership that CDOT brought forward. But so folks should know that is more or less pretty much from Water Dance to the high school. But you're really looking at the reconfiguration is more or less up by the light by the hospital. And so instead of doing the current configuration, the future alignment will be kind of cutting right through where the rec path is right now. So as soon as more or less the snow starts to stop and it warms up, springtime, they're going to be removing the snow out there. By the end of May, they hope to have an alignment in each direction. So heading from Frisco towards the high school, there'll be one alignment, heading one lane more or less heading there, and then from the high school heading towards Frisco, one lane heading in that configuration, and hope to have the whole project completed by more or less late fall. I mean, before the snow starts to fall again, is my understanding. So let's keep our fingers crossed with that. We were really hoping earlier before the winter season started that they would have at least one alignment done, the new region, the new configuration heading towards the high school. So it'd be a safer, to have the road separated, but unfortunately CDOT and the contractor just weren't able to complete that. But in the near future, that will be done.
Yeah. You want to talk a little bit about what they'll do with the existing roadway?
Yeah, so that was a big part of the design for us, is that the alignment that we're all driving on this winter gets turned into the new alignment for our recreation path. So that's also to be done basically by the end of this season. That's the whole thing about the ramp projects. They had to be able to be completed fairly quickly.
Yep.
So, and we had a lot of input with regards to how that would look. So, the experience, once it's all done, will be great for recreationalists. And there's an underpass that's been designed to really accommodate people. So much safer, much more enjoyable recreational experience on that, where we're currently driving right now, that will turn into the rec path.
And the other partner, I guess, to mention in all of that would be Continental Divide Land Trust. So, so the property that at least a portion of that roadway sits on was under a conservation easement. So that land was exchanged then for where the new rec path will be, which was actually a benefit in terms of the values of that property and the size of that property. But again, without Continental Divide Land Trust participating in that exchange, it would have made for some other challenges related to that project.
Well, once all the trees died on the parcel, it then kind of, because of the, thanks pine beetles. So that's what kind of made this whole project and this partnership make sense. But what Continental Divide Land Trust gets is a much bigger parcel of land that's under protection now. So
And lakeside.
right, and it's adjacent to the reservoir. So it made sense, but yes, we couldn't have gotten it done without a willing partner there. So thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great. Other comments about CDOT projects, or is that those are the two big ones?
Well, we do have, once this is completed, we'll have 0.6 miles that is still not 4-laned. And so there is some design money to look at that section, and it'll be interesting to see, but it's most likely that will be a real linchpin of traffic congestion.
Yep.
So we'll hopefully be able to move forward quickly with a solution for that, just 0.6 miles.
And that's basically from the light at the hospital up to just past the county commons entrance, where it's not truly 4-laned. And then you get into Main Street. Now all of that is part of this last segment. So Thomas, you want to talk a little bit about the complexity of that?
To us, it's kind of like, oh, you only need to go from the stoplight where you go into the hospital down to the stoplight where you go into the county commons. But for CDOT, it's like, oh no, we have all of this other design work and planning and engineering that we need to do to get us to Main Street. And so there's quite a bit more work for CDOT to do. The good news is that they do have some planning dollars pegged now for this work, but in our minds it's kind of like, oh, it's only this one little section that you got to get done. Let's just do it.
We'll just reshape it ourselves.
And they're like, no, it's more. Yeah, it's totally a Seinfeld episode waiting to happen. But for them, it's kind of like, no, we've got this bigger thing that we have to figure out. So a little frustrating for us on our end because it's kind of like just this one thing, and they're like, that's not how it works. So,
And there's a whole environmental impact statement that's associated with that whole project from beginning to end.
Right.
And there are some sound walls that are associated with the increase in lanes and so on, and that really does raise up the overall construction price. So again, it feels like it's just this little tiny bit, but it really is a much larger project than that. So again, getting the design completed hopefully puts us in a position where it can be constructed in the not too distant future. So, okay, good. Anything else you guys would like to add? No? All right. Thanks for joining us in March. We'll be back hopefully in a month or two, not 4 or 5. And stay tuned to SCTV for other great local government programs.